Welcome to the only place where real, raw, and vulnerable conversations happen with IFBB Bikini Pros to give you an inside look at their struggles, strategies, mindset, passions, and all of life beyond the stage. This podcast is made to inspire, motivate, and remind competitors and the average gym goer that even the most extreme lifestyles and elite athletes have their ups and downs. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm your host, Celeste Rains-Turk, and now it's time for the Confessions of a Bikini Pro podcast. Today, we are speaking with an incredible woman who is a proud mother, wife, business owner, head posing coach for Glam Girl Bikini and IFBB Bikini Pro, of course. She started her bodybuilding journey in 2017 and earned her pro card just 2 years later at the Amateur Olympia, with her pro debut being at the Tahoe Pro in 2020, finishing 10th at the outdoor venue for that year. She then placed fifth, also outside, at the Sacramento Pro. And as her journey continued, she realized she needed a necessary mental health break. So she took the rest of 2021 off, came back in 2022 with an impressive 6 shows in a season. And we actually had the pleasure of meeting and spending time together about a month or so ago. And well, by the time you guys hear this, it'll be longer than that. But when we're recording, it's been about a month. And I am really excited that she's gearing up for an exciting 2025 season ahead and decided to come and talk to us about her journey and that prep coming up. So welcome to the show, Marissa Willmott. How are you doing?
Thank you so much for having me on. I am doing great.
Good. I am so happy that you're here. And after we met, I so enjoyed talking with you in our little drive to the airport. It was so
Yes,
nice.
I
So
know.
I'm excited to just share more of you with everybody else.
Thank you. Yeah, I was so excited to when Amy told me that you were going to be there. I was like, oh, and then I saw you. I was like, I was kind of starstruck a little bit
Oh
because
my God, that's hilarious.
yeah, because I've been following you since I was an amateur, and I was like, my goal is to like turn pro and be on her podcast. So full
That's
circle.
so
So when I heard you were going
cool.
to be there, I was like, oh, I'm so excited, and just to pick your brain about food and all of that. So you did such an awesome job. That was like my highlight when we drove back from the airport. Amy was like, "What was your favorite part?" I was like, "Celeste."
Aw, that's so
Yeah.
awesome. That makes me happy. I'm glad. Well, yeah, we're here. We get to now do this together, and now I get to learn from you. So, and as with everybody else does too. So, before we jump into everything, I gotta ask if there's anything you do or think about, or maybe a ritual you have right before your heel hits the stage.
Yeah, so I think every year it has changed, to be honest. I always try to find something to like better like my nerves, like calm my nerves. When I first turned pro, I remember like I'm always in the back of the line because my last name is Wilmot, and I've actually wanted to change my last name to my middle name so I'm never on the end because it's so much harder to pose on the end of the stage versus like kind of in the middle. But anyway, so I'm always at the last of the line. And my first couple of pro shows, I would just like look at all the pros and like freak out and be like, oh my gosh, look at her backside, like look at her rear delts, like, oh my, and kind of freak myself out. And so then I learned, okay, now I'm just going to close my eyes and kind of almost meditate because I have a while being back of the line, And so I would just close my eyes and just almost go into a trance to where I couldn't even hear anything. Like I just kind of black out. And I've been in such a trance that I've had the expediter be like, hey, it's your
Hmm.
turn. And then I lost my dad. I lost my dad in 2022. Yeah, in 2022. So then, and I lost him about 3 or 4 weeks out of my first show of the season. And so all of that season, I just talked to him and prayed to him before I went on stage. And that really calmed me.
Hmm.
And then last year, I had my coach at most of my shows, so he kind of just talked to me the entire time. So, but usually I just try to meditate, tell myself like you deserve to be here because that was a real struggle for me. I had that identity crisis of do I even deserve to be on this pro stage? And so just telling myself over and over again, you deserve to be here, kill it, let's go, and then just hit the stage. So it's changed and I keep trying to perfect it. This year, I'm going to try to implement a little bit of breath work before stage and we'll see how that goes.
Oh yeah, you had mentioned that's been really helpful for you on a day-to-day basis. Like you've been doing a lot of breath work and that's been a great strategy for you in general. So I think it would be great to see you translate that to your before stage ritual.
I know. I'm so excited just to see how exactly how it transpires and how it calms me because in my day-to-day life, it has helped so much. I tell all of my clients, breath work has been amazing. At first, I was like, okay, this is dumb. Like, okay, when is this going to be over with? But now it's, if I go like 3 days without it, I'm like, I can feel the anxiety and my stress take over. And I'm like, I need to do some breath work. And then I just feel so much better and so much more calm.
Yeah, especially if you live such a stressful life or you're always demanding a lot of yourself physically, just to be able to put your central nervous system at ease and back into a place of like rest and being in like that parasympathetic state, knowing like, okay, I can function from here versus so many of us. I honestly think this is why there's so much mental health struggles in our culture, especially is because we have so many demands on our plate all the time. We're doing so much and obviously fitness is great for so many of us because it turns into an outlet. It's something that allows us to exert physical energy from like a mindful place, but then also to be able to go and do breath work or do work on your mind is so important. And you had, I'm just going to jump straight into it, but you had taken 2021 off after you did, I think it was one show that year, if I
Yeah.
remember correctly, because you needed a mental health break. And what strikes me about this, though, is then you come back in 2022 and you go through an incredibly challenging loss. So, what was happening in 2021 that led you to take that time off? And then, how did that actually equip you going into 2022 season after having lost your dad?
Mhm. Yeah, so I think a lot of it was I was pulled pretty fast into my 2021 prep, and I wasn't mentally ready to prep at all. And it was kind of more of my coach's choice, my coach at the time, his choice. I really want you to do this show. And some things happened at the show, and I got like I think 16th place or 15th place at that show, and it just absolutely crushed me. And I think that was just I was and I don't know if you've ever went through this, and I'm sure a lot of people have, but you were done before your heels even hit the stage.
Mhm.
Like I didn't, I was just done. Like I mentally wasn't there. The prep felt really weird to me. I knew that I had needed to grow, and I actually looking back at pictures from that show to even my pro debut, I was at my worst. Like, and usually when you're, you don't, that's not what's supposed to happen. So just right there, I just knew that I needed a year off to to grow and to just take a step back and live life a little bit. And then during 2022, when I came back, and so I didn't know my dad was really, really sick, was on dialysis. So we didn't really know how long he was going to live for. And when he got pulled off of dialysis, it took about 2 weeks. So we didn't really know. I knew it was coming. But I think what had happened too is the reason why I think I did what 6 shows that year was because I didn't want to grieve. And
Mm.
so I threw my entire self into just competing. Like nothing else mattered to me. And so, and then I needed a break after that because then I started to grieve because I started to slow down.
Hmm.
Yeah. And then I took a what? I took all of 2023 off and then came back. I almost took over a year off and then came back in 2024 with a new coach, a new mindset, fresh, ready to go. Grieved my dad, worked on some mental health stuff, and spent a lot of time with my family and my friends and rebuilt my connection and my like little support system during that year.
That's really beautiful that you took the time to do that. And you obviously knew going into that class show, like, okay, something's off. What were some of those signs that told you, okay, it's time for, aside from the I need to gain more muscle, What were
Yeah.
some of those signs that you were like, I need an actual break?
Yeah, I just wasn't all in. Like I wasn't in all into the prep. I was like 60% there. Like I didn't really pose like I was supposed to. Like I said, I was when we showed up in Florida and we showed up there, I was already ready to be done with the show and the show hadn't even got there. So just, I didn't have that excitement to step on stage. I just wanted to be done. Like, yeah, I think that was my biggest sign standing backstage going, I don't even want to be up here. That
Mm.
was my biggest sign to me that I wasn't excited anymore. Um, and then also I had that thought of, am I good enough to even be pro? Because I turned pro pretty fast, not the fastest, but I did turn pro pretty fast. I turned pro at my first national show. And so when I came to my pro debut, I was a little cocky and was like, okay, like I got this. I turned pro super fast. From an amateur to a national to a pro stage is very different. The
Yeah,
caliber of pros are insane. And I've never watched a pro show. I've seen them online, but everyone told me like, "Oh, you won the hardest national show." So people were very like talking me up a lot, so it got into my head. So I came into my pro debut like, I got this. So I didn't
definitely.
take even my pro debut very seriously, and getting 10th place out of a stacked lineup of Olympians, I was like, oh, I got this. Went into Sacramento, got fifth place. That lineup wasn't as crazy. So then I think going into Florida, I still had that mindset
Mhm.
a little bit like, I got this. And then I think that's when I needed to really step back and be like, okay, you really need to rethink this. And like, you need to like, are you going to take this seriously or not? Because this is the pro leagues. And so I really had to have that conversation with myself. Like, you're either all in or you're not. Like, being a pro, you can't be 50-50.
Yeah. Well, it's amazing you had some form of like imposter syndrome because you did end up hitting the pro stage and doing well. Like you
Yeah.
did great. So the hype was worth it, it sounds like. And then after, three at your third pro show, you're like, okay, I'm ready to be done. And I know like for those of us who have experienced that feeling, it's strange because on one hand you're like, well, I know I'm not done with the sport, but I'm done. I need to be done with this season before I like burn out in some way on the sport or build resentment. So, how did stepping away from the stage and focusing on yourself and your mental health actually shape your relationship to the sport?
Good question. Um, I think just taking a break, to be honest, and just letting myself live a little bit and telling myself that it was okay to step away. And I always told myself, people don't remember you by doing as many shows as possible, which doesn't make sense because I went into 6 shows after that, but that was for other reasons. But I always told myself, like, people don't remember you from how many shows you're doing. They're remembering you by how good you're doing.
Mm.
Um, and so, and knowing that I needed to step away to grow and not only physically, but mentally too, I knew that I wasn't going to come back until I was like ready, ready. And then coaching it was a lot different too. As far as like we're more strategic at shows that we pick out. When I was with my coach before, it was kind of a free for all. Like, I told him when I was prepping, I was telling him I want to do this show, this show, this show. And being an athlete and loving to compete, and then also throwing my dad into the mix of everything, it created a firestorm because you kind of have to have a coach pull you back a little bit and be like, no, you can't compete like this. Like your body's not getting better. We got to pull out. And it wasn't. It was like, go, 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 go. I actually was supposed to do 7 shows that year. I was supposed to do the Hawaii Pro, and I ended up pulling myself out of that show the day before because I mentally,
Wow.
again, yeah.
Did you still go to Hawaii?
I did. Yeah.
Okay, good.
I still went because we still had everything paid for and my family was going because that was the thing. Like, let's go compete in Hawaii and then we'll have like a week vacation afterwards. I don't suggest that to anybody because I came back like 10 pounds heavier. It was not. But and my body just hurt, because going from
Yeah.
like one extreme to the other, and I kind of just let loose a little bit because I was on vacation. I was in Hawaii for the first time. But
And where
anyways,
you were at mentally too, you were like, I'm done.
I went through 6 shows like that, I just ran myself to the ground. And so, but I ended up pulling myself out because again, I just didn't feel confident. My body wasn't responding very well, and I actually pulled myself out of it. And my coach was like, we could still make it. And I'm like, no, we're not. We're gonna pull out. Like I already know I've been through this before. I've done it before, and I don't want to step on stage not at my best or have that feeling ever again like I did in Florida.
Yeah, and when you've gone through that experience again, like if you've experienced stepping on stage less than your best,
Mm,
oh, it's a terrible
yeah.
feeling. It's like I know for me personally, I would rather lose knowing I looked my best
Hmm.
than win knowing I could have done better or looked better or brought something better to the stage. So
Yeah.
obviously we want to win, but I think more than that, we want to feel good about what we brought and what we're winning with. Similar to life, right? You want to know you're winning at life because you're aligned with your values and you're taking care of others and you're prioritizing what matters to you, not because you're hurting people or doing the wrong thing or trying to cheat the system in any way.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah.
So, just on the subject with Hawaii, how was your family? Like, how did they react when you told them, no, I'm not competing?
Yeah. They're fine. Absolutely. My daughter was a little sad because that was going to be her first show to see me compete at. So she was really upset.
Oh.
Um, yeah, so that kind of crushed me a little bit, but I just had a conversation with her and just kind of explained to her, everything. And I promised her that she would be able to go to a show soon. But my husband and my mom and my grandma and all of them, they support me no matter what my decisions are. Of course, my husband's always like, "Are you sure? Are you positive? Like, think about all of it." But I think he knew too that I was done. He's been around me long enough to know, and he
Mhm.
trusts me as well. He's not in the bodybuilding world. Like I'm the only one that's in it. So, um, you know, but they were totally fine with it. I think a little sad, but they're gonna support me no matter what.
Well, I think too, you had had a successful season, like even placing third at the Texas Pro that year, which was a big deal. And
My
it
first
almost
check, my first
what
pro
was that?
check. So that was my first
Yeah. That's
check.
awesome. You're like, I can now write off all of my competition
Yeah,
expenses.
yeah. Um,
That's so cool. And you know what? Like, that's a successful season. And what's kind of striking me about that season for you is how much of it was delayed. It was delaying grief. And um, unfortunately, we have in common that we've lost a parent. And I know when I lost my mom, I was really like, I was in an improvement season. I had just finished a show season. I was in improvement season. I remember thinking like, what is the point of any of this anymore? Like, why do I care about bodybuilding when I just lost one of the most important people in my life? Like this, it almost felt dumb to me. Like I felt like, what is this all for? And my mom was extremely supportive of me in competing too. So there was this part of me that was like, I don't want to do this anymore. Not because of her, just what's the point? It seems so surface level with the pain that I experience as deeper than anything. And then there was this voice. I was like, but there was a version of you that wanted this and wanted and believed in this. So you've got to keep going. And so I kept going. But that first season back, it was like there was a lot of grieving happening during that because now it was my first season without my mom. And I was wondering if for you, like, was your dad super supportive of competing? Like, what was his influence on you as a athlete and competitor throughout your whole life, really?
yeah. So the whole bodybuilding thing at first for my parents, my in-laws, everybody was very negative at first because they didn't understand the sport. And outside looking in, we're all crazy for people don't understand it, and that's the gist of it. But once he saw how much passion I put into it, then he started supporting me. And my dad was very different in showing his love a little bit. He was more quiet about it, but I knew that he was super proud of me because I would hear it from my mom and stuff like that. And he would secretly watch my shows, like on the lives and stuff. And I wouldn't really have an idea until my mom would tell me stuff like that.
Wow.
And then he, closer to him getting sicker and sicker, he did tell me how proud he was of me and like all of those things. So I didn't ever have a point where I was like, I need to stop doing this or I want to stop doing this. Like, what's the point of it? Because I've kind of have had done it alone for so many years prior to. It almost made me push harder because I was like,
Mm.
I want to make him that much more proud. And then I think towards the end, he was like extremely supportive of me doing it. So I think it almost actually made me work harder and push harder, hence why I did sh 6 shows.
Yeah, sounds
Yeah.
like it. Now,
But again, yeah, oh, and I'm sorry. Yeah. And just again, like I mean, I grieved him a little bit. Like I would go and visit him, and every time I would leave, I was like, is this going to be the last time? And I would pull over and I would cry
mm,
and kind of grieve on the way home driving. Um, and then I said probably bye 3 times and that was my last goodbye. And then after that, I took about 2 weeks to just kind of do what felt good, not necessarily go out and eat and do all these crazy things. I still stayed on plan, but like even in the gym, I would just go and do what felt good. And then I really started to push and be like, okay, this is my purpose. This is what I need to do. And then after that, I kind of was a little bit numb to everything. And then once I slowed down, then I started grieving and crying and having dreams of him and everything like that. And even just recently, this winter, me and my husband were talking about something. I just started crying. He's like, "What is going on?" I'm like, this, and this. And it was all about my dad. And he's like, "I had no idea you were going through this." And I'm
mm.
like, "Well, I just haven't slowed down to really think about it. But I do feel like I'm healed now, for sure. Now that I've got that, you know, done and over with. So,
Grief is very complex, and losing someone important to us is extremely complex, and everybody's experience with that can look so different. And I know I still randomly will just break down about my mom. Like, I was in the kitchen the other day, and my husband's like, "What's heavy on you? Something's on you. Something's all over you." And then I was just like, ah, and like I lost it, Sometimes it's just like
yeah,
I can't hold it back. But I realized that after so much time of trying to manage it or suppress it in an effort to protect like the other people in my life in some ways, I was actually hurting myself in that process. And now when it comes up, I'm just like, I have to feel it. That helps me to heal emotionally. Just like you said, you started to cry, you started to like experience that grief, and that brought you to a point of better healing.
yeah, absolutely. That was the whole thing is I was trying to keep everything in, not cry in front of my daughter. And that was something that one of my counselors told me. And they're like, no, cry in front of everybody, cry in front of your daughter. And just, it's good. It's healing. Crying's healing. So that definitely, it helps for sure.
Absolutely. I think too, when our children or children in our life see us grieving a parental figure, it can also help them in some ways conceptualize how powerful the love of a parent is, and also how certain death is, that you will lose those figures in your life. I remember when my dad grieved the loss of his mom. I remember that as a kid, and I remember what that sounded like.
Mhm.
And although I didn't have my stepson until this year, he sometimes will see that, or we've talked about my mom, and I think that's important to be able to have those conversations or show those emotions.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it helps them too as well, like learn how to grieve and again with their emotions and not lock themselves in their room and not how to not it teaches them how to express themselves in certain situations for sure.
That's right. Well, I want to ask you about like the start of your journey and kind of work from there. So, you had started during a challenging time in your life. You were a newly single mom, and I want to know more about that chapter. So, can you take us back there to see, like, show us how fitness became such a healing outlet for you, and then eventually became something where it wasn't just the love of working out, but you actually wanting to step on stage?
Yeah. So I grew up playing sports, all sports, volleyball, softball, and then I started racing motocross in junior high. My dad was a mechanic for a pro motorcyclist. And so I kind of grew up around that a little bit. So I started racing. And then once that kind of went away when I turned 18, I kind of got into some partying and all of that fun stuff, and then ended up in not the best relationships. And so I really lost myself to partying and alcohol and kind of just lost myself. Um, and then I had my daughter young. I got pregnant at 20, had her at 21. And again, just kind of, it's so young to have, like I was still trying to find myself. I was still in the partying stage and all of that stuff. And so, I remember just following actually Courtney King on Instagram, and I started following her and I was like, what is this competing thing all about? Like I didn't know anything about it. And then my husband now, he had a friend who did some bodybuilding, and I was like, hey, I want to try this. Like, I need an outlet to be more competitive because I'm super competitive. Like, everything I do, game night at our house, like,
Oh, yeah.
even my friends are like, just die laughing because it doesn't matter what we're playing. Like, I have to win. And if I'm not, I'm like, super, I just get
Yeah.
super competitive. So, anyways, we prepped for a show super fast. I think it was like a 15-week prep. I did an NGA, natural, ended up winning that show. And then I remember him just saying, I think that you have great genetics. I think that you're going to go far and you need a different coach.
Well,
And,
that's nice.
yeah, and so then I think I took maybe a year to just kind of grow and learn more about the sport. And then I did my first show, I believe, in 2016 was my first
Okay.
NPC show here in Bend, Oregon. And kind of just went from there and just fell in love with the sport. I remember having a conversation with my husband, like, hey, I think I really want to turn pro. And at first I had no idea what that meant. And even him, he was like, okay, like that seems impossible, you know?
Right.
And I think just year to year, we just kind of, me and my husband just learned the sport together. We kind of grew together and have been on this journey ever since. So
Which is really impressive for a guy who's not in this industry at all.
not at all. Like I remember last year, he was sitting on the couch eating ice cream, watching the Olympia with me.
You're
Yeah.
talking straight,
Yeah.
girl. That's
Why
my
I was in
every
prep
night.
and I was like, do you feel fat right now? And he's like, I bet you these guys wish that they had this.
He's not
Yeah,
wrong
like,
anyway, you know.
yeah. Like he is so supportive. Oh my gosh, I can't even explain how supportive he is.
Aw.
I actually wanted to quit last year after the Tahoe Pro because I just
Quit for good?
yeah, I came off stage just because I didn't do very well at that show. And you learn something at every single show. And that show I learned you don't bring your entire family and your friends with you. Not that they did anything wrong, but it's just a lot of pressure on you.
Mm.
And I'm the type of person that just likes to be very calm. I only want it to be me and my husband at my shows. And I had 18 people with me. And so
Girl.
I'm very high stressed.
Well,
I didn't
did you feel like you were hosting everybody? Is that why?
Um, yes, not my personality is I always want everybody to be okay
Yeah,
and them to have. So yes, in a way I was hosting them, but they didn't expect that from me.
right.
Yeah. So I put that on myself. It wasn't anybody that was there that did anything wrong. It was just that's just how I am in my personality. And I remember stepping off stage, and it's actually the first time I've ever stepped off stage and cried. Like I've never cried before.
Mm.
I've always like just taken my losses and just been like, well, we'll do better next time. Like what lessons did we learn? But this show, I was like, just came off seventh place from Indy with a way harder lineup. So I was like, oh my God, and I don't want to work this hard if this is how I'm going to feel. And just kind of started crying. And my husband was right there and was like, no, you're doing one more show. I'm not letting you quit on a bad note. Do one more show. And if you still feel this way, then we'll have that conversation of you retiring. And I'm like, okay. So I did one more show, came up seventh, and I'm like, all right, I love this again.
That's so cool. You
Yeah,
know
so he's
what? I love that.
so
It sounds, yeah, he's very supportive. It sounds like he gets, even though he doesn't do it, he gets it and he gets what it means to you.
Mm. Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's the one that watches me on stage all the time and probably just sees the passion that I have that I don't see in myself.
Mm.
When people are watching you do all this stuff, you don't really realize what they see.
Wow, that's a really great point. I think it's especially interesting because my husband also he didn't know anything about bodybuilding until he met me. And it's funny because he'll constantly ask me like, "Oh, is this like torture for you?" Like when he's on the couch with his newest like Publix limited edition ice cream or something. And I'm like, "No, because I've been doing this for so long. Like I know I could have that if I wanted it. Like that's the thing. I could even track 20 grams of it if I really wanted it. But I don't care. It's not a torture. It's just a lifestyle for me." And it sounds like you and your husband have a similar dynamic where it's like, it's okay if we do things different.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. I just came back from Hawaii and he asked the same thing. He's like, "Is it hard for you to sit here and watch me eat this?" And I'm like, "No, it doesn't bother me at all. I actually get enjoyment out of watching other people eat and drink." So in prep probably is when I have the most snacks and treats and sweets in my house because I can't have it, so I want to give it to everybody else. So I'll like tell my husband like, "Hey, can you try this for me and rate it 1 out of 10?" You know?
That's
And so like
hilarious.
as I'm getting like leaner and skinnier, he's probably gaining weight because I'm like feeding him all this stuff because I don't know, I get enjoyment out of it almost.
Yeah, that's understandable. I think they would call you a feeder, right? Isn't that like
Yeah,
the
yeah,
term?
yeah, yeah, yep. So
That's awesome. Well, I'm glad he was very encouraging after that. And hearing you say that you never had cried after a show before, like the emotional range of experiences we can have as athletes is so intense. Sometimes you can walk off stage and be like, okay, whatever. And then there are other times where it does like it hurts. Even you could be the most competitive person in the world and it may not make you cry, but you're still competitive. And I think personally, I think it's important to actually feel those things. Like it's okay to cry after your show, but then like making sure we're going into it with a growth mindset. It sounds like he kind of re-navigated you to how you normally are, which is, all right, well, what's next? And I'm curious if this competing experience at all relates to your other athletic endeavors and experiences? Like, how does it relate to volleyball or to motocross or whatever it might be?
yeah, I think it's different though because like with volleyball or softball, it's a team sport. Although this is a team sport, you have a lot of people backing you. You're the only one that's doing the cardio. You're the only one that's eating like this. You're the only one's taking the time to pose, to sleep, to stretch, all of the things. You're just kind of listening to your coach and you're executing. So playing a team sport is way different. You know, it's a team sport. Motocross is similar to bodybuilding as the sense of it's only you out there on the track. You're the one that's racing, you're the one that's having to practice and stuff like that. But bodybuilding is so much more extreme in the
Mhm.
difference as far as like food goes. When you're I mean, it with motocross and stuff, I did it so young, so it was like I would eat Oreos and then go out on the track. Like it's
Right.
obviously probably different for pros. Like they probably have their own chefs and they're very like, exercising and everything like that. So I can't really compare because it's been so long. But this is a hard sport, as far as like everything you do, I think revolves around it.
Literally everything. Because this is something as I come to a point in my life where I don't want to, not like I don't want to do it anymore, not like bitter, just I'm ready to move forward from it. That's
Yeah.
one thing that's been so apparent to me is, oh my gosh, the last 10 years of my life from 18 to now
Yeah.
is, well, how does this affect the physique? When's my next show? When's the season starting? I'm in improvement season. How many macros am I getting today? Okay, well, if I do this hike today, how's that going to affect leg day tomorrow? And
Yeah.
it's this ongoing constant. Whereas when I was playing volleyball was my life. So I will say the intensity is very similar as you can relate to being so competitive.
Yeah.
But it was different in that, well, if I wanted to have a pool party with my friends, but like that, it's just a little yeah, bodybuilding is so much more demanding of every facet of your life.
Yeah, so you think that this is going to be your last year? Are you scared because I've been competing for
Yeah.
10 years as well, just like you. And I've had this conversation with my husband because me and my husband have been together for 12 years now. So I've been competing almost as long as we've been together.
Oh, wow.
And like you just said, it revolves around everything off season, competing season, like everything is revolved around it. And I've always been from one extreme to the other extreme. Like
Mhm.
I'm either bulking or I'm cutting. Like there's never a middle. And when I think about leaving the sport as far as just not me competing anymore, I think I'm always going to be a part of this sport, whether it's coaching or posing and stuff like that. Um, but finding your identity again is going to be scary. Like, I'm
Yeah.
scared to feel empty and not have a purpose after this. Do you
You
feel that
know,
way?
I I have had some thoughts like that where I'm like, this is all I've ever known, but I keep reminding myself like I wouldn't have wanted to spend the last 10 years any differently.
Yeah.
So it's formed me and my identity in a way that allows me to exemplify like the next whatever is calling me next. And this year I spent and last year or the year prior, so like the last 2 years I've been really growing my identity in Christ, where I've been able to like detach more from these other external identifiers, counselor, competitor, whatever. And I'm more so embracing like, well, what are the characteristics that are exemplified through this that I can continue? And I did like make a list. I started it last week because I'm like, oh my gosh, like there's 2 weeks left of prep. What the heck? This is so weird. So I just did a brain dump of all of these different things I'm looking forward to for after season. I wrote down, oh, these are my goals for personal, professional, relationship, creativity, art, and I just started making a list of those things, and I'm like, oh, and travel and whatever, and I'm excited, and I keep thinking my life won't change. I won't go on that pendulum ride because this bodybuilding, much like you, like it built us. So
Yeah.
if it built us from something, then it's going to be very difficult to take those walls down. I think there'll be some bricks that are removed and replaced with something more important for that circumstance or that life calling at that point. But like I'm prepared to make those changes, I guess, to the structure.
I love that. Yeah, that's good. Writing a list down and stuff of what you're excited for. I love that. That's a good
Yeah.
idea.
And you'll
Yeah.
find you're still so like a lot of what I wrote was like I'm excited to do more pull-ups and push-ups just
Yeah.
because and to lift without thinking about how is it going to affect because You're going even into the gym. You're like, I can't train my legs that way.
Yeah, I know. I think that's what I'm most excited about. Like when I am finally, and I say this to everybody, like I'm gonna train different. Like they're like, ask me. I'm like, I think I would train different. I know I probably wouldn't hit my upper body as much. I'd probably, I want to grow my legs.
Interesting.
Yeah, I probably, well, it's hard too because when you're walking around and you're super lean and it's in the summertime and you're like going to the grocery store and you're wearing a tank top and everyone's like staring at you, it makes you
Okay.
uncomfortable a little bit, you know? So I'd probably get my shoulders to come down a little bit. So I'd
That's
like
so
a little
interesting.
human, a little, yeah.
Yeah. Tell me more about like how you train currently and maybe how your training's evolved over the years versus maybe if you weren't competing, what would your training look like?
Oh man, I think it's evolved in a way of like I used to just go in and just do random stuff all the time. Now it's like I've stuck to the same plan over and over again, and I've really focused on tempo, mind muscle connection, writing my workouts down and trying to progress each week, or if I can't progress, at least have the same load, but then focus on slowing down my tempo. So that's really changed a lot over the years, is just more detailed and just really honing in on like this is my workout and we're not changing it.
Mhm.
Um, I don't change it every 4 weeks, 8 weeks, anything like that. I just kind of have found what works best for me and my build, and I just get really strong on those compound lifts, and then we kind of just sprinkle in a little bit of accessory work in there to make it a little bit fun. And then if I trains without bodybuilding, I honestly don't think I would train my lower body any different because I love like bigger legs and glutes. Like, that's just, I love that body part on a female. And so, but the upper body, I probably honestly just wouldn't train it at all for a while and then just do leg days like 3 days a week. And also just really probably do more outside stuff too,
Mm.
hiking and and just being in the outdoors and stuff. And then also if I just didn't feel like going to the gym, I just wouldn't go. I would really listen to my body and what it needed and the wellness that it needs. Because right now it's like you feel like crap, you better go to the gym. You
Yeah.
feel good, go to the gym. I don't care, you know? So I would just really, really relearn my body and what it needs.
Mm. Yeah, that's a really good point. I was actually talking to someone who's competing for the first time at this upcoming show, and she was saying she used to be a runner, and the difference for her was if she wanted to take the day off because her body was sore from running, like to perform better, like she would take the day off. But in bodybuilding, that's not how it generally works. I mean, you've got to be really going through it and report to your coach, like, I'm going through it. This is now like multiple days in a row of feeling this way for your coach to consider potentially doing like some sort of either deload week or just a rest and refeed. Like, maybe even not the refeed, maybe just a rest. And so you're right. There's a, that's what's interesting about bodybuilding too, is it's a sport that demands so much of an extreme, right? Because we're presenting an extreme on stage. And that extreme presentation of a physique requires an extreme level of going against what's normal because we're not looking normal on stage. We're not even looking fit level normal. We're looking extreme level fit. And in order to get there, you have to push boundaries that just like they're not healthy boundaries, right? You're breaking through these things because you have to look freakish,
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
basically,
Exactly. Yeah.
to put it bluntly.
Yep. Yep. Exactly. Yeah. It is an extreme. And there's been multiple times where I'm like rolling out of bed and I'm like, I'm literally gonna die. Like I feel like I'm dying right now. Like my insides
Oh
are
no.
feel like
You're like, actually, right now, as we're talking,
yeah, yeah. But you just got to push through and, and it is worth it. As much as we say that it's an extreme and that we feel like we're dying and it doesn't matter and we're just pushing through, it is worth it. And we wouldn't do it if it wasn't.
Yeah. I mean, you talk often on Instagram and just in general about the power of having consistency over motivation. And I think it's clear that's played a role in your success. You not just love the sport and love the demands that you're putting on yourself, like that's part of the reward. but you're also committed to that regardless of how you feel. So, how has that mindset of consistency over motivation played a role in your success as a athlete, but also an entrepreneur and a parent?
Yeah, everything,
Mm.
honestly. Consistency is just key, but I think not, yeah, it's just, I think it's my personality though, too. If I have too much chaos going around me, I get very stressed and overwhelmed. So keeping that consistency for me in my training, I'm consistently waking up at the same time in the morning. I'm consistently training the same time every single day. I sit down and check in my clients consistently the same time every day. And it's funny because even my husband or my friends are like, hey, come do this. I'm like, nope, I gotta check in my clients at this time. And they're like, you work for yourself. And I'm like, nope, because it really stresses me out.
Yeah.
So the same thing like with being a parent too. I think kids work really great off structure. We wake up at the same time, we have our breakfast, we go to school at the same time, we come home, we go to practice. Like just having that consistency in that schedule just keeps my life very calm. And I
Mhm.
know for myself personally, making sure that everything around me is calm and collective and consistent. I just thrive in it. I've been chaotic and had this schedule here and this schedule here and these appointments, and it just
Mhm.
is not great for me at all. And I see it with my clients as well. When I have them have more consistency in a schedule, their anxiety and their stress levels come down tremendously.
I love that point. I think how you have supported your clients is incredible because sometimes it's, I think, undervalued. People hear about structure, they hear about consistency, they hear about schedule, and it's easy to just go, I don't have the time. I can't do that. But the reason why a lot of us feel like we are pressured for time is because we don't have a structure. And I always tell my clients, I'm like, if you don't create a schedule or a routine, one will be created for you. It is inevitable because you're going to function this way, but you'll become reactive to whatever comes versus being proactive. And you're very firm in those boundaries and or your schedule and those boundaries within your schedule that you even said it's influenced your family positively. And personally, I'm curious because you have a blended family how that looks because with a blended family, there's a lot more moving parts and pieces, and there's different times maybe of the week or of the month that you're going to have these kids versus those kids or all the kids. So, how do you navigate maintaining structure when you're also, and they might have a different structure at the other house. So, how do you navigate that?
So, well, it's gonna go back to like we keep our structure like 1 week on, 1 week off with the kids, and it's always been like that. Of course, if we are going to a show and it's our weekend, like I'm so thankful for my husband's relationship with his ex because they do parent very well together. They co-parent really well together. They're on a schedule, and we don't veer from it very much. Randomly, we'll just be like, "Hey, we're going to be out of town. Can we switch weekends?" And again, I'm so blessed with like the best stepkids that it really has never been an issue. Now, my daughter, on the other hand, I've had my daughter, honestly, for the last 12 years. Just me and my husband have had her. Her dad has been absent for the last 12 years. He now is back into her life. He just had some things. He was really sick, had to go through some things and get better. And he's doing awesome now. But she has now started going to his house the same weekend. So now I have a whole week to myself, which is different. Quieter, but again, just keeping her on that structure. And she, from I think the last 12 years of having structure with me, if he misses a week, she's like on the phone and she's like, this is your weekend to have me. You better come pick me up.
You told
So,
me that I was like, this girl knows what's up. She's like on it.
yeah, and I don't even have, I like really don't even have to really get on him or about or get on her like, hey, it's your week. She's the one that's like, hey, come pick me up. Like, is your week? And he'll be like, oh, I'll get you next weekend. She's like, no, that's mom's week.
Love
So I
that.
think just that's been instilled in her. And yeah, I just again, going back to my husband, he's never really, and we had this conversation on the way to the airport. My husband's just always been very involved with the kids and is so helpful. If I do randomly like have to do more cardio for some reason or something kind of happened in my schedule, he's like, I'll bring the kids to practice. Don't worry about it. Or like, I'll do this or I do that. He's never put his kids or our kids or my step kids on, like, he's never been like, they're your responsibility as well. Like, he's co-parented so well, and I don't step on those toes, and he doesn't push that on me either.
Was
So
there a learning curve to that, or did you like that's just how it's always been?
um I'm trying to think back because I mean, gosh, it's been 12 years, so it's been like this for so long. I don't, yeah, maybe a little bit at first. I think when we first got together, I was like, what am I getting myself into? Because I was a brand new mom. So we've been together since my daughter was before she was 1 years old. And
Yeah.
so I think at first I was like, oh my gosh, what am I getting myself into? But again, I go back to like, he's so good. He's such a great dad and has never put that pressure on me to like step up and be a step parent. Like he's never put that pressure on me. So I don't think I've ever had issues with that. And I also, I'm very respectful of the kids as moms just because I want that respect too when my daughter has a stepmom. And so I always put myself in her shoes. And so, yeah, I've always just tried to be really respectful. I've never tried to be like, oh, I'm taking your kid and I'm going to go do this and this and this without your permission, kind of a way. So I think all the way around with all the parents, we're all very respectful to each other.
Yeah, I think that's really important because conflict only ends up having a negative impact on the kids. Like, sure, it's going to affect the adults, but it has the biggest impact on the kids because then if every single adult is dysregulated and managing that conflict,
Yeah.
they're
And I
gonna
think,
feel it.
yeah, exactly. And I think all of us are on the same page that it's all about the kids.
It's
You
good.
know, we're more focused on them than how we're affected by it.
Yeah, that's really important. And I think it's really beautiful that even though you went from like that party lifestyle, having a child at 21 years old, wow, I can't imagine that. And then going and you found true love and you've had that true love now for 12 years and established a whole family for and with your daughter, which is so awesome. Did you, when you found out you were pregnant, how did you think your life was going to go compared to like now looking back and you're like, oh, this is how it actually went? Like, could it have been, would it have ever been this?
No, never. Gosh, I thought my life was over. I
Yeah.
cried for like 2 weeks because I was just so young,
Mhm.
and I had just got with her dad and we had just moved in together, which his mom was like, that's not a good idea. And she was right. But no, I mean, I don't regret any of it. My daughter's amazing, and I think that she's molded me into the person that I am now. I think if it wasn't for her, I would have took a different path. I don't think I would have worked so hard to be so successful in what I do today if it wasn't for her.
Wow. Well, that's a really great take on it. What you thought at the time was life ending actually ended up being life changing for the best.
Absolutely. Yeah, I tell her and everybody all the time that she saved me because I really was. I was in the party scene. I was doing drugs. I was doing alcohol. I was drinking alcohol, trying to escape really the reality of what my life was at the time with being with somebody that was mentally abusive. Previous to that, I was with somebody that was physically and mentally abusive and just trying to escape that reality and then ended up being pregnant. And obviously, you can't party, you can't drink, you can't do any of that. So she really did honestly save my life. And I think God gave her to me for this exact reason.
Yeah, it was like what you needed. It was the direction and it. Did you want to be a mom? Like, did you always want to be a mom, or was that just no? Interesting.
No, it never was even a thought ever at that point. Again, so young, still part in the party scene. Never had a thought of, oh my gosh, I want to be a mom, which is crazy because my daughter, I'm always like, what do you want to be when you grow up? She's like, I want to be a mom. She's the most loving,
Oh.
affectionate little girl ever. And I'm the complete opposite. So, but no, even now, like when me and my husband first got married and stuff, people would always ask me, are you guys going to have kids together? And I'm like, no, I'm a one mom. Even though I have stepkids,
Hmm.
it's a little different. Again, going back to his parenting style, like him and his ex, they co-parent really well together. So again, I don't have to step in and play that huge role of, he's had to do that with my daughter with having an absent father for, the last 12
Hmm.
years. He's had to step into that role, but they've had both their mom and dad, so I haven't had to step into that role. But with just her and me, I am a one mom, I think.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you got blessed with such an incredible daughter and an amazing family too, especially going through what you have with the physical and emotional and mental, verbal abuse and those relationships to then trust that something could be as stable as it is to take you all the way to 12 years and beyond and really know and believe that that's going to be the rest of your life. Was it strange or difficult to accept that love, like that true love?
Mm, yes, so hard. Like the first 3 years of me and my husband's relationship was really hard. More so probably on him because I was still trying to heal all of my trauma. And so he didn't understand any of it. And he was like, why are you acting this way? We would get into these arguments and I would just lose control and kind of just he's never seen somebody like react that way to like a simple argument. But it was PTSD having, a mechanism that I had to I'm going to hurt you first before you can hurt me because I've been hurt so many times. Or I would run away. I would like disappear, like leave the house and like disappear. And he'd be like, where are you going? Like, we need to have an adult conversation. So I think it took a lot of him like sitting me down and being like,
Mm.
this is how normal people react in these certain situations. And it also took him like telling me like, I can't, you got to fix yourself and then you can come back. And so him allowing me to go through what I needed to go through and fix what I needed to fix and to trust him that he wasn't going to hurt me was all on him,
Yeah,
allowing me to have that time and to heal and stuff.
definitely. I think it's a difficult thing, but it's something you have to do on your own. Like there's no one who can do it for you. And if you need that from someone, then you would never probably get it because you realize it is an inside job, even though the hurt and the pain maybe came from somebody else that you were associated with or other people. The unfortunate part of that is the healing is in you and on you to take care of. It can't then be displaced to somebody else. So it's really beautiful how he held the space for you and was steady, but also encouraging you like, okay, this is something you need to work on it. And I can help you, but I can't do it for you.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So it did take me, but I think it helps too that he's a little bit older than me too. So he's a little bit more, he's more mature. Like we've talked because I think we're the same, right? 14 years.
14.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
14 years as well. So you know exactly what I'm talking about. They're just more mature. So when we have our little like drama fest or immature, like, I'm 33 now, so I like to say I don't have many of those anymore. But when I was being immature, he'd be like, okay, like we're gonna sit down and we're gonna be adults.
Sometimes though that bothers me. Like sometimes that's very
So yeah,
triggering for me because I'm like, oh my gosh, you can't just say it's because I'm younger than you that
yeah,
this
yeah,
is
yeah.
happening. Because sometimes it's like, no, like I think I would feel this way. I mean, I can't be sure, but sometimes it
I
does get to me.
Yeah, I guess he's never really said that, but I guess I mean as far as like instead of him lashing out on me because I'm lashing out, like he's more like
Mm,
better
yes.
at handling certain situations than I am. So he's like the calm to my storm and
Love that.
vice versa, you know?
Yes. That I absolutely can relate to.
Yeah.
I know that feeling, and that's one of the things I respect most about my husband is his wisdom. I'm like, oh, it's
Yeah.
so nice to
Yeah.
have someone who's just steady.
Yeah. Exactly. And that's what I needed, you know, in my life.
Oh, absolutely. Especially at that point in time, it sounded like his steadiness was refreshing.
Yes, absolutely. Hmm.
Well, your business is Empowered Athletics. So,
Yeah.
what does it mean to you to be empowered and also to empower others?
Yeah, absolutely. So like kind of like what we were talking about, everything that I've went through, helping women. So I'm all just a female coach. Don't really I want women to feel their best and their most confident. And I want to be able to help women too that have went through what I have went through and just help them refine themselves in health and fitness and just empowering them to believe in themselves as well because that's what I had to do. I had to believe in myself that I could be better than what I was. I had to believe in myself that I could heal myself, that I could get away from that lifestyle and build the life that I have always wanted. And so through my coaching, I not only help them to look their best, but also mentally feel their best too by just preaching to them and kind of telling, through my struggles, helping them.
Oh, absolutely. Being relatable and also being able to speak life into somebody who doesn't see it in themselves is a beautiful job and role of a coach. A good coach will take that on and be excited about it. And not only do you help from the fitness perspective, but you're also a head posing coach for Glam Girl. So I wanted to hear from you, like, what's a piece of posing advice that you think all competitors, new or seasoned, could really benefit from hearing and implementing?
Oh, well, I mean, probably things that you've already heard before, but you can
That's
never
okay.
yeah, you can never start posing too soon. Posing is going to make or break you on stage. Doesn't matter how great your body looks. If you don't know how to pose it, you're not going to do very well on stage. So hire yourself a posing coach, no matter how good you think you are or, whatever it may be, get yourself a posing coach and start as soon as possible. Also, sometimes it doesn't hurt to have multiple coaches because you're going to learn different things from different coaches and you can implement those into your routine as well. And always keep your glutes high. That is one big thing that I'm always teaching everybody.
Would you say that's
Don't let
like
your
one of the bigger mistakes you see?
yeah, don't let your glutes drop. Confidence too. Having and learning confidence is huge too. And
Mm.
this is another thing I think I see a lot with posing is when girls are practicing their posing, they don't practice their smiles, they don't practice their facial expressions, they wear their hair up on top of their head or they have socks on their feet. And it's like, you don't do this on stage. So why are you practicing that? And I learned this from myself because I was like, oh, when I get on stage, I'm going to smile. When I got my comp pics backs, I was like, wow, I look super angry and mad. So I've almost had to teach myself how to look happier and like I'm having more fun on stage by practicing that behind closed doors. So that would probably be my biggest thing is make sure when you practice your posing by yourself or with your posing coach that you are mimicking exactly what you're going to be doing on stage.
Love that. Love that advice so much because I can't tell you how many shows I've attended and I'm in the audience like, smile,
Mm,
smile. I'm like, you're hitting your poses, but like we don't feel it. We can't feel it if your face isn't matching your posing.
yeah. Yep, exactly. I also like watching shows has helped me so much. I used to never go to pro shows or watch obviously online and Instagram, but it's so different in person. Like you really can like when you sit in the audience and when people are saying you could just feel her presence, you don't understand that until you actually go to a show and you start watching all these girls come out. You can almost pick
Mhm.
the girl that's going to win just by the first step on stage and just her presence and her vibe and her smile and just how she captivates and grabs those judges' attention. And that's not something that you're just born with. I think that's something that you do have to truly practice by yourself.
So true. Like I will do my check-in the morning and I'll do the video and I'll watch it back and I'm like, girl, you are not selling it. I'm like, you need to do
Yeah.
that again. Like there was something off about like that step and that movement. Like you need to get your count. You need to just because then I present as if I'm on stage. And if I tell myself that, I mean, I remember the first time I started posing and I was like, I would visualize the judges' faces. And because at the time I was really only competing in one area. Um, so it was always the same judges, but I would visualize it, and now I still do, but I just imagine like the panel in front of me. When I get on stage, it's interesting. If you watch my eye movement in all of my posing practices, and then you
This-
watch my eye movement in the videos on
yeah,
stage, it's the
absolutely.
exact same.
Yeah. Yep, I agree with that. Yeah, you got to practice that. Like even, following your hand, looking, scanning from one judge to the other, back to the middle, you're turning, go back to the middle, turn around, scan left to right, back to the middle. Like I'm always teaching my girls, all right, once we get all of their posing done, okay, now we're gonna practice scanning judges and your facial expressions. What you're gonna practice behind closed doors and by yourself is what you're going to do on stage. Because when those nerves take over, your muscle memory takes over. So if that's something that you have been practicing, you haven't been practicing your smile, you're going to do that when you're super nervous on stage.
And because we know visualization is so powerful, there will be times where I will just pull up my recent videos of me practicing posing and I'll just rewatch them. If I'm like, oh, I can't go pose right now, I'll rewatch it and I'll mentally practice. And it feels like I'm doing it because it's the same thing every time. So I can attest to this advice that you're giving. It makes a huge difference. Like, and then when you hit the stage too, there's nothing you're having to actively think about because your body's already done and
Yeah.
prepared for all of it. It's already prepared for a judging panel. It's already prepared for walking X amount of steps to the middle of the box. It's already prepared for exiting the stage. Like it's prepared that you don't actively think. Your body just does.
Yeah. So do you watch your posing videos before you go on stage?
Oh, actually, no, I don't. Before I go on stage, I'm just very like,
Yeah. Quiet. Yeah. Keep yourself in super quiet.
I
Yeah. But
don't
that's
practice my posing too much before. I literally maybe do one round and then I'm like, nope, my body knows it. I'm good.
Yeah, I think sometimes if you're practicing your posing too much backstage, you start to overthink it a little bit and it makes you almost more nervous. Like you should have
Hmm.
already been practiced and ready to go by the time you're backstage that yeah, you shouldn't really have to run through your posing. The only time really you're going to run through your posing is if your coach is there and he needs to
Exactly.
see you or she needs to see you.
Yeah, that's exactly what I found is best for me. I'm like, I don't need to. The shows where I've been backstage posing. I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm in my head too much. But if I'm not, then my body takes over at the right time.
Yeah, I think that's good advice though, right there. Is like you know, don't pose too much backstage because you do start to get in your head, especially if you're looking in the mirror and you're like, and you're like picking
Yeah.
yourself apart because you're super nervous, So I think that's good advice too. That's honestly probably good advice for myself as well, because sometimes I will, get a little nervous and start posing and it probably
Yeah.
makes it worse.
Yeah. Actually, you said something earlier I forgot I wanted to come back to, which was you were at the show, your pro show, and you looked around backstage and you saw like these physiques and it's a different level. How do you keep yourself mentally focused on you bringing your best? when there are so many other incredible physiques backstage with you?
Oh, well, now I just don't pay attention to that like I did before. Like, oh my gosh, like, okay, so for instance, my first probably 2 years of being a pro, Ashley Kay was at every single one of my shows. So, like,
Mhm.
just seeing her, like you would just get nervous and you're like, oh, great, here we go. And she's awesome and she looks amazing and everything like that. I think now I just don't really pay attention. I just focus on myself. Having my coach there has helped tremendously. I told him this last year. I think I did one show without him last year, which was the Tahoe. And I was like, I'm never, ever, give me your schedule because I'm not doing a show without you. I think he helps a lot just having that and having him, there to keep me calm and to tell me how I'm looking. And I trust my coach now too. I think before my last coach, I did not trust at all. And that's made a huge, huge difference because I know that if he tells me I'm on, I'm on. If he tells me I'm off, I know he's not a hand holder and he's not
Right.
going to BS me to just make me comfortable on stage. Like I remember at Texas, he came back and this was right after Tahoe. So I was kind of my confidence level was really low going into Texas just because I had came off like a 14th place and I had just came off a seventh. So my confidence level was just a little bit low. And he came
Yeah.
backstage like right after my it was before they lined us up to go back on stage for like prejudging. We just had done our individual and he comes back and he's like, why do you look scared? Like, knock it off. I need you to
Love
bring it
that.
right now. So I think, and he's, Cash, like he's a big dude and like he's just right there. So I
You're
don't,
gonna feel his presence. You're gonna know.
I mean, you're going to hear him before you see him.
Yeah.
So it's like, um, I think, yeah, he is a big distraction for me. And he always is like, I don't care about anybody else but my girls. And so I think having him say that to us, like it helps you just focus on yourself.
Mhm.
Like I said before, when I would pay attention to who was there, I would search on Instagram, like who's going to be at the show. I would get the list, the comp list, and I'd go check out every single one of these girls' Instagrams and I would psych myself out. And I've learned over the years, like last year when I was competing, he would be like, do you want to see the list? Like, he's like, the list is out. He would text me and I'd be like, don't show it to me. Like, I don't care. I don't want to
Yeah.
see it. The only time I would ever like kind of see the list is when people would tag me in it and I would
Yeah, I'm
repost.
sure.
And I wouldn't pay attention. I kind of let him do the damage work and let him be like, you're good, like this person and kind of go through it a little bit. But other than that, I just try to bring my best and just focus on myself. Because again, it goes back to like posing backstage and you making yourself worked up and nervous and picking yourself apart. I think if you just focus on yourself, if you have put 110% into this prep, like nothing else should matter. Like just bring your best. And I've had to learn that over the years. Like I said, I went through the list, stalked my competition, and now I just don't do that. I just focus on myself.
If you're looking for competition heels, jewelry, and fun competitor extras, then visit shoefairyofficial.com and use code Celeste for a discount at checkout. Yeah, I think that probably, or I would imagine it's probably made your experiences more fulfilling.
Yeah, absolutely. And more fun too. That was another thing. It was like when I turned pro, some, I think when I turned pro and I kind of came out and I was like, oh, I got this. And then I went into the year of 6 shows. It almost took the fun out of it because I would get so worked up and so
Mm.
nervous, and this person's going to be there and worry about it. And I think just again, coming back to like believing in yourself and believing that you deserve to be there and you deserve for those top call outs makes it less nerve-wracking.
Absolutely. And I think after so many years and so many shows, you have to come to terms with like, I don't know what's gonna happen. I don't like I had to remind myself like I don't even know how I'm gonna look on stage that day. I don't even know how the stage is gonna feel. How do I know, or why do I think I know what they're gonna look like or bring?
Yeah. And exactly. And you don't know who's going to show up either. And I try to tell my girls that too, because they're like, you like, I'm going to win, I'm going to do this. And I don't think I've ever went into the show and been like, I'm going to win this show. Like, hands down. Like, I'm just always like, I'm going to bring my best. And some judges are going to like you and some judges aren't going to like you. It's, you know, and depending on who shows up, you're going to be pushed forward or you're going to be pushed back. If you're the smallest and all the other girls are small, you're going to be pushed up. If you're the smallest girl and there's bigger girls, you're probably going to be pushed back. It's going to go with the majority. So you just don't know. And as a pro, it is nice. And I don't know if you've heard this before, but you kind of get to know some of the judges and what they prefer that you personally look like as well.
Yes, I've heard that.
Like if you have this head judge, they typically like you to look a little bit harder, or if you have this judge, they like the girls to look a little bit softer. So I think that's a benefit of being a pro is you do learn the judges and kind of what they like and what they're kind of looking for. So, and I know a lot of girls do chase around certain judges as well.
Well, yeah, and I think you're right. Like there's preferences and no matter what, you're trying to meet the criteria, but it doesn't change that some judges will see the criteria more fitting on your physique when it's like this versus that.
Exactly.
I think
Exactly.
actually it was Ashlyn Little who talked about that on this podcast like a while back, like how Sandy prefers her a certain way over like um other judges.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you kind of learn that, which is, like I said, I think it's a benefit for being a pro is learning that and what the judges actually prefer. Because there's a lot of judges are probably, if you're competing a lot, they're going to see you weekend to weekend to weekend.
Yes.
So they know what your best is and they know what your worst is. So it's beneficial, but then when you don't come in your best, they're like, that's
Mhm.
not what we know what your best looks like, and that's not your best.
Oh, absolutely. That's actually, I had spoken at this event in North Carolina and I asked one of the judges there, I was like, what's your pet peeve as a judge? Like, what's your pet peeve? He's like, my pet peeve is when I give an athlete feedback and then I see them a week, 2 weeks, a month later, and they didn't deliver on the feedback. He's like, that's my pet peeve. It's not something on stage, it's the not delivering on feedback given. Like you're asking for it, we give it to you, you should deliver on it.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that for sure. Yeah, because I do think that they award you for doing that. You know, they
Mhm.
tell "Come leaner, they see you 2 weeks later, you're leaner, they're probably gonna reward you for that, if that's the look that they're wanting for sure.
Exactly. So before we wrap up, I really wanted to hear about like your experiences competing outside. Like how,
Like that.
because when I've talked to other people about that year, I competed that year, but never had to compete outside. I thought, well, that's really interesting because I remember seeing photos from the Tahoe show actually and being like, oh, the lighting, it looked surprisingly good. But also, I noticed some competitors would go on stage and the sun would be different than when others were going on stage. I'm curious what your experience was like competing outside.
Yeah, bless Chris's heart for that show because I think that he had to tell whoever, I have no idea, the state of Nevada, apparently that he was getting married that day. That was his wedding for us to compete. Yeah, so bless his heart. So I don't ever talk bad about that show because everything that he had to go through for us
Oh,
to.
I hope that didn't come across wrong when I said that.
Oh, no, 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 no. But so the experience was, well, so it was okay. So it's hard for me now that I've been experienced, thinking back on the show. I'm like, yeah, it was freezing cold. We couldn't get a
Oh, it
pump.
was cold too.
So cold outside. I want to say it was like in the 50s. They did have like a warm up tent for us.
Oh, that's
Um,
nice.
and stuff, but then getting on stage and like our hair was blowing in our face and lip gloss, our lip, it was like sticking to our lip gloss. And but me being brand new and it was my pro debut, and you do get treated a little bit differently when you're a pro versus an amateur. And so, when you're an amateur, you kind of get shuffled like cattle and you don't know when you're going to go on, and it's kind of a little bit more chaotic. But when you're a pro, you're like, you have your own room. It's just you guys. Like, you don't have to be in with everybody else. They typically are like, whatever you guys need, like, let us know. Like, just super, like, and then you're on at 12 o'clock. And this is what time you come on, show up, go on, come off. And so being a brand new pro, I'm like, this is so awesome. This is so
Yeah.
cool. Like, everything was like amazing. But then, like, the other competitors were like that are more seasoned pros. They were like, and I'm like, oh, I don't know. I thought it was great because I'm just coming off being an
Yeah.
amateur, so I don't really know. But it was hard. We had to walk down in our heels. It was cold. So we were freezing, but they, again, like I said, he literally had to tell them, the state of Nevada, that it was his wedding so we could have
Wow.
this event. So yeah, it was fine. But then when I went to Sacramento and I had to compete outside again, it was so hot, and Sandy had us up there for so long. I could feel my makeup, like, you have so much makeup on, just just sweating, just coming off my face. So it was completely opposite.
Wow.
And I actually, so the stage in Tahoe was really hard because, like, the big bodybuilder dudes came on it first, and this was just a stage that they just had to throw
Yeah.
together for a day. It was like bowing in the middle, and so it was really hard. And being brand new, doing my first pro posing routine on stage, like, tripped a little bit, and because it was so cold, I started to cramp up. So, like, you know when we did the outside one for Sacramento Pro, it was so hot, but I actually preferred to pose on the pavement. It was like kind of paved. And Sandy's always so awesome. She's, when you're up there, she was even telling us, I'm so sorry, girls. Like, I know it's hot up there, but just hang in with me. She's awesome. Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, it was just a yeah, just different experience. But have I like to be I would have, Sacramento was way better because I rather be hot than freezing cold in a tiny little bikini.
Oh my gosh. Well, especially like from a pump perspective, like I'm
Yeah,
such a baby. If I'm backstage and it's cold backstage, like that's when I start like shivering and chattering. And if you can't have bands right back there too, you can't stay warm. And it's like, oh my gosh, like you just want to be. I think that's probably the worst thing is show day weekends. You're always so freaking cold
I know. Well, I mean, I feel like I'm like freezing all the time
all the
just because,
time.
low body fat all the time. I think that's the worst, almost the worst. Not the worst thing about prep, but one of the worst things about prep is being freezing all the time. And then in your house, everybody's
Literally.
normal and they're like, we're sweating. And you're like in, a freaking parka in your house.
That's so real. Like I every day I'm like, oh my God, it's freezing in this house. And my husband's like, it is 73 degrees in
Yeah.
our house. I am burning hot. And then I'm
Same.
like, no, or we go outside and there's like a breeze, but it feels so good to him. And I'm just like, great, now I need to go get my jacket. And I should have worn sweats over my leggings.
Yeah. I was actually having a Ninja Creamy the other night, and I'm in the bath eating my Ninja Creamy. And my husband comes in and he's like, are you kidding me? I'm like, I'm so cold.
That's awful.
Guys, like, but you're eating ice cream. Well, protein
Yeah.
ice cream. I'm like, I know, this is like part of my meal plan, but it's so freezing. So every night after my Ninja Creamy, I have to go take a bath just to warm myself back up.
Isn't it crazy? Like I literally like I my dad sent me a reel the other day. It was like the warning about always having radiant heat. And I'm like, I live in radiant heat. I have my heater
Yeah.
blanket constantly. Like I have the fireplace on all the time.
Uh,
I am a radiant heat girl. And I love fuzzy socks, collect them. But and I've always been cold as it is, but then you add prep level leanness to that. And I
same.
can't fall asleep. Like, they say it's better to sleep in a cold room, but when you're already so cold, like, I cannot fall asleep without my heater blanket at this point in prep because if my feet touch my other feet or my other leg, it is painful almost. And then you've got your bones when you lay down. I don't know if
Yep.
you know when your bones start to touch, like the knees stack. I
Yep.
hate that feeling.
Yeah. So just recently, because I'm getting a little bit leaner, just sitting on like bleachers for my daughter's volleyball games, I'm like, I have no cushion on my booty right now. Like
I don't know how
it's
to do that. I
yeah.
would be bringing a pillow.
Yeah.
I cannot sit on the floor without it. Like I bring my pillow and just put it on the fireplace next to my dog and sit with him by the fire because I can't.
When is your birthday?
December 5th.
Okay, so you are a winter baby because I'm July, so they always say that summer babies are always cold because
Huh.
we never knew how to regulate and keep ourselves warm because in July, June, July, August, you don't have any clothes on. So you're always warm. So when you're a baby, like you didn't ever have to warm yourself up. But if you're maybe you stumped that because you're December and you're always cold. But that's
Well,
what
I
I've heard.
also grew up in California, so
Oh, okay. We'll see. Maybe that it might be true then, because
yeah.
I'm always freezing. And then somebody told me that. I was like, it makes sense.
Yeah. And my sister, she was born in the winter, but in California, and or fall, November, and she is always hot. My mom, she was born in November. She's always hot. So you might
Hmm.
be onto something because I might
Okay.
be an outlier, but it's okay. I'm used to it.
Yep. So that's my theory.
Love that. All right, well, let me get your best advice. So, what is your best advice for someone who has never competed before but wants to? And then your best advice for somebody who's on their road to pro?
mm. Let's see. Road to Pro. Well, Road to Pro is enjoy your time being an amateur because once you get to the big leagues, it's a little bit more tough. It's a little bit more pressure on you. And then somebody that is brand new, has never competed before, find yourself a good coach. Do your research. Get on multiple phone calls, no matter how long it takes, and go with your gut. Having that coach, a good coach from the get-go, can make or break how you how your longevity is in this sport.
Love that. Yeah, that's such great advice. And I would love for everybody to be able to connect with you, follow you. Thank you for everything that you've shared, and also watch your journey in this next season. So, how can they do that?
So my Instagram is Marissa Renee _ IFBB Pro, and then my business page is Empower Athletics.
Amazing. We'll put that in the show notes page. So, you guys, that's always on celestial.fit/podcast. If you're listening right away, it'll be at the top of that page. If you're listening in the future, just scroll down to the category section, which is alphabetized. Not only will you find how to connect with us, but you're also going to see a full summary of the episode, kind of like what you'd find on the back of a book. You'll see a list of the topics we covered, and you're going to see episode timestamps so you can go back, listen to your favorite parts, or share it with your friends, your family, your teammates. Let them know what resonated with you. And of course, tag us as you listen or after you listen. Let us know what resonated with you, what you loved about it, or just that you tuned in. It goes a long way for the show, but beyond that, it goes a long way for the athletes who come on and share their journey so openly and vulnerably. And we greatly appreciate that. So, Marissa, thank you again for coming on.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
You are so welcome. And to everybody listening, I hope you all have an amazing rest of your day, night, or morning, wherever you are in the world where you're listening to this episode. Just make it awesome.